It's another Friday, and we're here once again to have a conversation. How have you been? How has your week been? How has everything been going? I hope you've had an amazing week, as usual. Still busy, still grinding. For some reason, let me grab some water. I think I have a dry throat. But I just wanted to check on you, ask how you're doing, how your day went. I mean, this year, my phrase for the year has been the word intentional. So I decided to be intentional about myself, my choices, my children, my friendships, my work ethic, my personal development. I'm failing in my exercising because dealing with a lot takes away a lot of your strength. So, but I've been great with my food. I'll give myself maybe 75%, and I've been intentional about a lot of things. I like the way that this year is going, and I'm looking forward to looking back at the end of the year with a lot of growth because I was intentional about it. So, I don't know what your theme word for the year is, or even if you have one, but I know that I'm going to have an amazing year, and I know that it will be great. So, let's talk. Today, as I mentioned, I wanted to talk about what the best response for abuse is. And I have so many episodes on what domestic abuse is in terms of what it entails. Scroll down the episodes. I'm sure you'll see a couple and understand what emotional abuse like. Everything is listed down there. So I just want you to know that if you're going through abuse, you're not alone. It's not your fault. Abuse, when you're usually cut off, it makes you kind of feel a sense of you're in this together, especially when you're trying to express the sentiments of the relationship and people around you seem to have bought into the charm of your perpetrator, and they are like, oh wait, he can't do that. It makes you feel a bit alone. But I want you to know that you're not alone. God does not want you to suffer. God did not choose you to suffer. God doesn't choose anyone to suffer in terms of what would Jesus do if they were in position. That's your test. No, it's not true. It's not biblical. It's not a God-given punishment. It's not an endurance test. And you're not obliged to put up with it because you've made a vow to someone you thought you could trust. I mean, when I read Malachi from the beginning, and where the prophet said, for I, the Lord your God, I hate divorce, just read it from the premise of what God sees as divorce, because they were asking for a couple of things, and God was telling them that, listen, you guys have been all over the place worshiping idols. And then the last thing he said, and lastly, how do you want me, God, to listen to you when you have so dealt treacherously with the wife of your youth? I mean, for when you know that I, the Lord your God, I hate divorce. Now, what is treachery? Look in the dictionary. It's anything that breaks trust: infidelity, financial abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, physical abuse. Everything under it is treachery. So it's not a God-given punishment. You are not obliged to put up with it, and you are not being abused because someone has chosen to. You are being abused because someone has chosen to abuse you. It's not a God's choice or your choice. It's your abuser's choice. Do you understand? You made a choice to marry someone you love, care about, adore, respect, honor, and then they in turn are supposed to give you the same love, respect, trust, honor, and they kind of turn the scales upside down. You're walking on eggshells, you're scared, you're frightened, you can't make your own personal choices. Every time that you try to keep up with them, the goalpost will shift. That's not what God's plan for you are. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're a magnificent creation of God. You are loved, you're worthy, you're unique Only you have the gifts that you have. Only you have the looks that you have. You have the giftings that you have, that God has dumped in you for you to use. And when you choose a partner, they are supposed to help you unearth those giftings so that you can complement each other and go out into the world and do great things. You might not need to have a big platform, but the influence that you wield around you, the people that you work with, the people that are your friends, the people that you engage with on a daily basis, you go to the salon, you go to the shop, you go to the market. How do the people feel after you've left them? The people that you engage with, the people that you buy from, you deal with on a regular. Are you using the giftings to help them ensure that they are growing in an aspect? Now, if you get a good partner, they will support you as you support him, or her. So there are people who understand and who can help as well. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with you. It's abuse. And that is wrong. It's not you. There's nothing wrong with you for your abuser to do the things that they do. The abuse is wrong. So let's get that straight. There are people who understand you and who can help you. So reach out for help. If it didn't work, if you've reached out for help before, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It happens sometimes when people don't understand the situation and then they in turn become one with your abuser. Don't give up. Don't give up at all. The right help, there are organizations, there are groups, there are courses. This podcast is here. There are other podcasts that you can listen to. Like, fill your soul with things that will make you grow. Search for things that will feed your soul and renew your mind as to your self-worth and who you are, because you know who you are. You've just forgotten because you are running all the time to keep up with someone who's changing goalposts, changing characters, dumping the abuse on you, gaslighting you, twisting stories and tales, withholding affection and punishing you, trying to control you for things that are so inconsequential and shouldn't be a problem. Now, first of all, the most important thing is that safety comes first. How safe are you? Safety isn't just about the physical aspect, but the emotional aspect. Your body feels the fright of an abuser who's also emotionally manipulative, and they do things to hurt you deliberately. Your body feels the pain. So how safe are you, right? If you feel unsafe, you've got to do something about it. And I really want to tell you that you're important. Even if you feel worthless, just know and understand that you're important. You're precious, you're valuable, you deserve to be saved, you deserve to be protected, you deserve to be kept faith, you deserve to be valued. So please, don't let anyone degrade you. Now let's talk about how you can help someone who's in an abusive situation. First of all, is it safe for them to go back home? Are they being threatened, by their abuser to kill them, to harm them and harm themselves, to harm the children, to harm the pets? What is the way to go? If that is happening, call the police, go to DOFSU. Don't go back home, seek help. Or if you have somewhere to go back and stay there until someone else can have a conversation with your abuser. Is there a child or a vulnerable adult at risk? Perhaps you live with your mother, your father, your grown uncle, or someone, and when the abuser gets angry and wild, everybody gets their share of the abuse. So just call someone. Is there a risk of a child experiencing violence? Like, what people don't understand and realize is that a lot of people will say stay for the kids, but that is so damaging, because the more the abuse goes on, they sense the fear, they feel the stress, the atmosphere is heavy, they feel every kind of emotion, they know all is not well, but they are powerless to do anything. So what happens is that they become victims of the abuse as well. That's why children in abusive homes sometimes tend to act up, retrogress, have difficulty in studying, and all kinds of things. So when you're making the choice to leave, stay for the kids is not an option. It's an unpopular opinion, but if you take 100 women who've survived abuse and you ask them, is stay for the kids an option? I can guarantee you that you get 100 out of those 100 women saying no, because it is not. And when you get educated with the tools and you understand what the damage that you're doing to the children in that environment, you will make a quick decision to remove them from that environment, because it's not a healthy one. So you've got to make sure that they don't witness the violence and safeguard them. Just make sure that you've put a system in place. Always tell the survivor that you're making a report if you need to call the police, because they need to understand what is going on. Is this an urgent situation? Does the victim or survivor want specialist support or health support? Are they going crazy? Do they need a therapist? Do they need a counselor? Do they need to see a doctor or anything? First of all, you have to establish those things. Is it unsafe for them to look up? If it's unsafe for them, there are some people who go through your phones, who go through your websites, who go through your laptops, your emails. So if you are, reading material that has information about domestic abuse or violence on how to do a safety plan, please make sure that you have a website that has an exit button that can hide the history and button if your abuser is coming or something of the sort. If they are in a high-risk environment, please do not give them books or leaflets to go home with them. If it's possible, be a support when they go for their first appointment for counseling or for therapy or for a court session or whatever. There's nothing like feeling alone in a world where you're walking the journey of recovery by yourself. So I always say that if you know someone who's been through abuse and they are recovering, be a support system. Be a support system. That is when they need you the most. Don't let them go off on their own. A quick phone call, a text, an hour to just check on them or go with them for an appointment or offer help, a name, a resource for them to call someone and speak to. It works wonders. It really does. So please, let them also know that the doors are open and you're holding space for them anytime they want to have a conversation. Please desist from asking them questions like, why didn't you leave? Please desist from saying that, but he doesn't look like it. Please desist from saying that, are you sure? Please desist from saying that this will make you stronger. Please desist from saying that, oh, this is a test that God is putting you through. Ain't none of those things. No, they are absolutely wrong, and you should not say those things to a survivor or a victim. So, does the victim or survivor feel ready for specialist support? Do you think it's something that they can do? Never force or pressurize someone to make contact with a specialist, a therapist, a counselor, a pastor until they're ready. That's why a lot of people don't understand. They sometimes say that, oh, get help for the abuser. No, if he's not ready to change or get help himself, nothing that you're going to do. They're just going to go there and act and gaslight the therapist, confuse them, and even collude with them and come out and say that you're the crazy one, literally, or you are the one at fault after all the abuse that you've kind of gone through. So both for the victim and the abuser, don't force them to seek specialist support, be it a specialist doctor, a therapist, a counselor, whoever. It's not by force. So let them be ready. Let the person know that you're there for them whenever they want to talk, and they have a right to all these things that you are mentioning. Let nobody gaslight you into thinking that you're doing the most when you seek therapy. It is healthy, it is normal, and it is important for your healing and growth. So please don't let anybody kind of bully you into not actually seeking help where you should. Prayer is not therapy. Please, prayer is not therapy. Do the therapy and pray for peace. God brings us peace. God brings us a sense of calm God brings us love and wraps us and comforts us, and during our grief is there to walk with us by the power of the Holy Spirit. But when you need to uproot the things that have kind of shaped your mind and mental attitude and fortitude, you need a therapist. It's important for Christians to understand that there is nothing wrong with therapy. You know, Samuel in the David used to play, and Saul, when he was angry and depressed and everything, that was therapy. It was calming and have a conversation. There's so many times that people have been in distress and they went to Jesus and they had a conversation. That was therapy. Talking is therapy. You know, when people came to Jesus and they had trouble or whatever, it's not every time that they pray. Look at the woman that he met by the well. He said to her, this is it, this is it, this is it, this is it. And he spoke to her in depth and probably explained her situation to her, that you've been married 4 times. The 5th one that you're living is not your husband. Why is it that this is going this way? I think this happened. And they had a conversation, and she went back and said, look at this man who's told me about my past. Now that's what a therapist does. They have a conversation with you and they unlock keys and things in you that then bring out the joy in you. And I'm sure that this woman came to know Jesus and came to love her, but Jesus did the therapy with her first, you know. So I say every time that therapy is biblical and it entails conversations, and when you read it, you'll find it there. So, you know, have that conversation. You have a right to whatever kind of support you have, be it legal, be it protective, be it family, be it friend support, everything. Now, therapists have a way of accusing anybody that tends to help or support the victim. If it's male, they'll accuse the victim of having an affair with the person. If it's female, they'll say you've fallen under the influence of bad friendships. So understand that that is the abuser's way of trying to still control you. So if you are someone who is supporting a victim and an abuser starts making accusations at you and you pull back and draw back, know that you've let the victim down, because that's what the abuser wants. They just want the victim to be alone, stripped of all support and attention and care, so that they feel lost in the world. And if in a way the person doesn't have that help, they reel them back in, and every time they reel them back in, the abuse gets worse. That's why people go back and leave toxic environments, and eventually they end up probably dead or killed, or anything, live with a terminal disease, because it does affect your body. It does affect your body. So that's what it is. So yeah, does the victim feel ready for support? Specialists never force them, like I said. Now, be aware that any intervention has the capacity to increase risk. I always say the risk for a perpetrator to go after a victim is 70% high when they leave. So always talk to the victim about everything you're doing, so that they know at every given point in time what is happening, so that they understand the minds of the abuser. You'll be amazed. They know and understand exactly what the abuser might be up to, so that they can give you information and feedback as to how to help. Don't act without the permission of the victim or survivor and go and say things to the abuser, or try to have an intervention when the victim is not ready. Always be guided by the survivor or victim's knowledge of their situation and how they generally keep safe. Like I said, they know and understand the situation better. So anything out of their will is an imposition, right? And then you in turn are beginning to manipulate and treat them like the abuser, who's always looking for a way to control the situation. So have that at the back of your mind. And also, if they haven't left and there's an exit plan in place, always make sure that the time that you're contacting them is a safe time, because the possibility that when you contact them will bring on another episode and they might lose their life is high, especially during this time. So engage with them about what's the safest method of contact. probably have a code word that you can use, so that when they use that code word, you know that it's safe to talk. Have a code word that you can use, so when they mention that word, you know it's not safe to talk. Because trust me, abusers will use everything and anything to control the situation. Know and understand that there are different kinds of help that will be available. Like, it takes a whole team of professionals with different areas of expertise to do with domestic abuse. So let them know they are not alone. Let them know you are there for them. Let them know that you are there not because it's your job, but as a friendship. If you are a counselor or a therapist, let them know you are there for them. So there are many staff development lines that you can contact: the police, the DOFSU, and then a list of domestic abuse podcast agencies. Now, it's important to listen to podcasts. It's important to read books to renew your mind. Making Sense of Your Confusing Marriage by Shannon Thomas is one of your Christian Marriage is one of the amazing books that I use. Domestic Abuse in Church Communities Restored, a handbook, and it's a female Christian book for survivors of domestic abuse. It's an NGO in the UK, and I have some contacts with them. So if you need a book, let me know, right? Let me know, so I can contact them, and it's free. So if you need a book, if you need a resource, it's very comprehensive, and it helps you with prayer. It guides you. What I love the most about domestic abuse in church communities are the prayers of survivors. The stories are so real, and the survivors pray, and they share those prayers with you. And when you pray those prayers, and feel that they are also healing, and that there's been a journey to these situations. So first of all, don't use excessive anger to go and counter the perpetrator, because the tendency that they might hurt their victim is high, or punish them in one way or the other. If they are emotionally abusive, if they are physically abusive, same thing. Whatever tool that it is that they are employing, they will make sure that they use it at that time, because it's not about the abuse, it's just about the fact that the victim has spoken up. So immediately the victim speaks up, they see it as a challenge, they go into war mode and war zone, and all hell break loose. So if you're going to support a victim, please don't be judgmental. Don't give them toxic positivity. I have an episode on toxic positivity. You should listen to what that means. Don't use spirituality to kind of send them back into the situation. Don't be judgmental. Don't ask them, why didn't you leave? I have an episode on that as well. Don't say things that will make them stronger. No, that's toxic positivity. Don't do any of the normal things that people do. This is why this podcast is so important to me, because you will be re-traumatizing the person. So I want to say it and shout it so loudly from everywhere that it becomes innate to us. When someone comes to us and tells us that this is a situation I'm going through, you immediately understand it, because you've heard it on this podcast. It's for you who's not going through abuse. It's for you who's going through abuse. It's for you whose sibling or friend or whatever is going through. Because when everybody is educated, then the safe space for survivors becomes wider and bigger, and it then becomes easier for them to have a conversation and speak up about it without feeling judged, without feeling silly, without feeling stupid, and without feeling as though they are a failure. So this is why I do this. So make sure that the victim has no way of coming back to attack them. Always seek their pick their mind and seek their opinion in making decisions for them. Don't make decisions for them. Make decisions with them. Understand what they are going through. Understand their knowledge of themselves, their situation, and their abuser, so that you and them can make informed choices. Don't look at just one aspect and make choices for them. If it's about seeking therapy, please make sure that they are ready, and that the person is a trauma-informed therapist or specializes, or at least understands what's going on. Be there for them. Be a support system. Hold space for them. Hold space for them, because they will grieve, they will cry, they will pull back, they'll be silent, they will be happy sometimes, but they will be growing, and they would have changed in some ways. Even though they're fundamentally the same person, they would look at things from a different perspective. They will be extremely resilient, extremely self-aware of where they are going, and they will need you to be there for them. So hold space for survivors. Hold space. Don't make it awkward for them to, don't box them. Hold space for them to be able to move around and navigate, to come back to find themselves. And so I leave you with this. If a victim is being abused, they cannot safely sometimes say everything that they've been through, especially if the perpetrator or this. Sometimes you need to have separate conversations. And bear in mind also that the abuser will come and deny everything, or find a justification why they did what they did, and try to make it look like the victim is crazy. It's normal. It's not as normal. And it's also not possible to discuss a safety strategy if the perpetrator is with the is present. If the perpetrator is present. And if a perpetrator witnesses their victim becoming more assertive or confident, it makes them feel less secure, and then they become a lot more aggressive. So that's why the first few months or weeks when a victim leaves is dangerous, because the abusers will do everything and anything: smear campaign, lies, threats. They will call them at dawn, continuously ringing off the hook, send them text messages, do all kinds of things, because they are trying to worm their way back into their lives and control them. That's why it's important to grey rock. If you don't have kids with your abuser, block them. Just block them. It gets to a point where they even stop communication with you, and it makes blocking them easier. So it can be difficult for a victim who is working in a relationship or family therapy to seek appropriate support. Like, for instance, they say go to counseling. That's not what's going to work. No. Therapy for abuse is different from marriage counseling, and I it's something that's really dear to me, and I hope that churches and counselors will understand that family therapy support or marriage counseling or whatever is not the same as counseling for domestic abuse. Abuse is abuse. Abuse is a sin in itself. Abuse is frowned on by God. God sees an abusive man as separate from the spouse and doesn't regard that marriage. And so we need to come with that approach. And I feel like if we had come with that approach a long time ago, perhaps we will not be having this spate of domestic abuse going up and killings going all over the place. Because the essence of what abuse is in the church is completely lost. It's not there anymore. So that's just what I want to say. Right? I love you guys. Thank you as always for listening. And if you're going to be a support, please read as well, listen to podcasts, understand, and be a total support. Your survivor will thank you for it, because it is not an easy path to walk. If you can help with mortgage, if you can help with rent, if you can help with, I wish companies had a system where they will kind of give more flexible payments for mothers who need space and shelter after they've left an abusive situation. I don't know, it's really there are not even enough shelters in Ghana to contain mothers, and so it's a hard road to walk. So please be supportive, be understanding, hold space, be loving, and try as much as possible not to project your thoughts and fears into it, and listen with an objective mind, and support victims, hear victims, listen to victims, understand victims, believe victims, and give them the best support that you can. Until we meet again, same time next week, I love you. It's been Amma. Have an amazing and awesome week. Thank you. Take care and see you. And oh, do make sure to share the podcast and tell someone about it. I love you guys. Bye. Have an amazing week.